Okay. Hi, everyone. Most of you know who I am, and those who do not, I will tell you a little bit about me. I am a clinical aromatherapist, and my specialty is working with those in hospice and also working with frankincense. They actually call me the queen of frankincense. Uh, and because of my knowledge in frankincense and the research I've done on it, I have written articles for many aromatherapy magazines, and I belong to several aromatherapy and herbalist organizations. NAHA is looking for opening for positions for board members, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And um, since Jade and Denise, Jade is running for president and Denise is running for vice president. Both of them are dear friends of mine. And no, I'm not being biased, but I really like them a lot and I like what they do. And I really would like you to see their side as well as, the other side. But I really would like to see both of you. I'm going to ask each one of them questions, and uh, this way they will answer. And I made up a bunch of questions. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with you, Jade. So tell us about what you have done in your life so far and then bring it to present time.
35 years is a 35.
Just
You're
real quick.
next.
Only in a paragraph,
You're next.
35 years.
Oh, I just want to note that Becky, who's running for treasurer, unfortunately cannot be here. So we
Yeah.
do miss her.
Yeah,
So I
for
might
sure.
grab her another time.
For sure.
So, all right,
Do you
Jade,
know,
go for it.
yeah, I always like to share how I stumbled upon aromatherapy, which was when I was on a oh no, sorry. I'd actually married a British man and moved to the UK, and I developed just kind of a lot of back pain and just really had a difficult time transitioning from living in the United States to the UK. And a friend of mine there referred me to an aromatherapist. I had a beautiful treatment. I mean, we were south of London at this beautiful farmhouse, the skylights, the sun, it was sunny in the UK. Those days it used to rain a lot. And I had an aromatherapy treatment with this woman, Sophie, and she, did a consultation with me, customized a blend. And of course, in the UK model, it's, they apply it via massage. So, she made my blend, gave me the massage. She finished on my back. I fell fast asleep. But I literally, I mean, true story, I woke up and I just was like, this, I found what I want to do for the rest of life. Do you know, I like really, I had been looking, one of the magical parts of living in the UK were like bluebell forests and there's gardens everywhere. And, I had a bachelor's degree in accounting and I was like, I do not want to be an accountant. So,
I know that
so I
feeling.
was looking and just that experience changed my life. So within a few months, I was married to a British man and the UK was in a little bit of a recession. And so they were helping people go back to school to really create a new career. And aromatherapy was considered a valid profession. So the UK government helped me go through aromatherapy school, which was pretty amazing. And I went to the Raworth Institute of Natural Medicine. It was in Dorking, UK. It's no longer there. But it was, I believe, a 1-year program, and we had clinic hours, and it was with massage and reflexology, all of that good stuff. I actually found my data sheets the other day, and the essential oil data sheets used to be like 1.5 pages, so simple when I was trained, and that was 1988, 89 into 89. So, I practiced in the UK for a while and then I came back. And, over the years, over my lifetime experience, kind of important markers would be it was a very different world in 1991 or 1990 when I returned back to the United States. There was not the internet and social media. You really had to be connected slowly to the network of people involved in the aromatherapy field. I felt particularly passionate about educational standards. I just thought that was really important. So it was something I wrote articles on, published in Sensitivity, which was NAHA's journal way back then. And this was really pivotal in setting educational standards, kind of based on the UK model, but different because massage was already heavily regulated in this country. So we kind of created these standards with kind of a perception that massage therapists and estheticians would be getting the education we were going to be offering, the various schools that existed at that time. So that would be kind of a milestone in my career. And then I'm a writer, like more and more I begin to appreciate in myself that one of my greatest loves is writing and research.
Yeah, you
So
just wrote a new book.
I am, yep, I'm finishing it up. Um, but this was again before AI and ChatGPT, all of that. So, reading the research and writing, all of my courses come with books. And I guess that was the other thing in Boston. I established one of the first aromatherapy schools in the United States. At the time, it was called the New England Institute of Aromatherapy. And then let's see, over the years traveling, I've, traveled all over for aromatherapy to learn different kind of how different countries practice aromatherapy. Um, Lived in Seattle. I had a physical school in Seattle for a number of years, I think 12 years. We were in Seattle, downtown Seattle, like a couple of blocks from Pike Place Market, if you know Seattle. And just really loved teaching live classes because online classes didn't really happen until, I don't know, like 15, maybe 20, because my son's 20. So that's when I remember starting online education. Um, so yeah, online education, live classes, retreats, traveled, different conferences. Just I am always learning about aromatherapy and kind of integrating that new knowledge or new research into course material I'm writing or have written. I've served as president of NAHA in 2002 to 2005, and then I think 2012 to 2014, maybe or January 2015, because I resigned to go to get my master's degree at the Maryland University of Integrative Health, which I never finished the program, but I did 1 year of that program. So I have served as president, helpful in setting educational standards, even revising, like getting to the level 3. And I would say one of the most important things is I was one of the first and only, particularly in North America, aromatherapy schools to really open up and teach about the internal use of essential oils and
Took that
aromatic
course. When
medicine.
you first did it, I took that. Excellent.
Yeah, so French
Excellent.
aromatherapy.
Yeah.
And already, as Denise is going to talk about, you know, I had always been integrating herbal medicine with aromatherapy. It was kind of what my mentor in the UK, Jan Cusack, who passed away a couple of years ago, but he also came from kind of a herbal medicine background. So he really inspired me. Plus, on top of all of that, I am a gardener. So I've always gardened, whether it was in Boston, I had a fire escape. It was probably illegal, but I grew my plants on that fire escape. Particularly, I remember calendula. I could look up and see my calendula flowers, hoping I wouldn't get in trouble. But I've always been a gardener. It was something my mom passed down to me, just the love of gardening. So growing the plants, and I like to have that experience of the plant. It just helps me get to know the nuances of the essential oil that much better. And And I like just to see them. I don't even always make medicine. I just like, hey, hi. And I like to see them grow and how they grow and how well they do, of course, in the climate here. So, yeah. So it's been quite a journey. I was talking to a colleague last night, and one of the things I recognized was that aromatherapy has really been pivotal in my life. And even 35 years later, I still am madly in love with it, I guess one could say. Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I could say wow. You've accomplished a lot to
It's a long
now.
journey.
Long journey, long journey. All right, Denise, you're up. Same question.
Yes. This is probably even you, Robin, probably don't know some of this. Usually I start when my daughter was born because of the significant allergies and being an autistic person and sensory issues. But my actual journey started much earlier because when I worked in a laboratory in Chicago, I became allergic to the world. It was called multiple chemical sensitivity at the time. But at that point, I found that I was getting migraines. I couldn't tolerate any fragrance, laundry detergent, soap, shampoo with scent, anything. And so I, at that time, picked up and moved to New Mexico because the environment was much more natural and the air was better and all of those things. And when I was there, I had injured my back. And so there was a Sikh practice that was quite amazing. This whole group of folks there, they do like prayers for the world and things like that and have events. And I thought it was the coolest thing to go see someone for my back who was wearing a sword. I will tell you, that was cool at the time. I thought that was just, coming from Chicago and being a Midwesterner, to go and have someone in all white with a sword and such a wonderful person. Everyone at that practice was so wonderful. And that was the first time I was exposed to essential oils for pain for my back. And at first I was like, oh no, nothing that smells, I'm going to react. And it was like, no, these are pure. You've probably just had, poor quality or other things that have hurt you. And so it actually made a significant difference other than just only spinal work without that. So when I moved back to Chicago a few years later, in between was in Florida for a while working for magazines. I was an art director and creative director, which is why I do so much marketing and things like that. But that was my background. But I continued using essential oils and really started getting into herbalism and nutrition. So when my daughter was born, go figure that she was allergic to everything in the world. And I'm sure that there's some connection to that. But she literally was allergic to gelatin, the coating on pills. She couldn't take, like the little tiny bit of gelatin that would be on a pill. She was allergic to pork and beef and dairy and goat and pig. And, every single mammal, their fur, their dander, all gluten, so any wheat, things like that. If you even cooked around her, she would have anaphylaxis just from particulates in the air. So it was just me trying to, as a mom, find ways to actually help her. And so that was what started me really looking at, well, how in at first it was, what can I use on her body that won't cause a problem? But also, being a neurodiverse person, she had a really hard time with transitions. We couldn't put on our shoes and walk out the front door. We had to we couldn't just go to bed. We had to have something. And so that became our family ritual where we would do like a lavender aromatherapy, and then we would have a special Epsom salt lavender soak, and then she would go into bed, and then we would read for 45 minutes, and we would just diffuse a little bit, of something at the time too. And then she would go to sleep. And that ritual stayed. She's 23 now. So that ritual stayed probably until she was 21. So only during COVID did she start actually taking showers, like stand-up showers, washing herself, but she still uses aromatherapy. And she has her own little corner in my studio where she can formulate the things that she wants for her own body. But, it was something that was so present in our lives for so many years. And with herbalism, that was, again, trying to find things, because we found when we bought things from the store, we didn't always know what the filler or the coatings or all of those ingredients were. So I would do everything from scratch. We even grew all of our own food that we could. I made our own crackers. We made all of our own like breads. We made everything. And carried all of our food, with us anywhere we went. Clothing, laundry detergent, all of those things. I would make everything. If she wanted plushies, the stuff that they put in to fill plushies, I would even sew plushies from scratch with my own fabric, and things. So it was just like, so it got to the point where I was like, my kids are a little bit older. They can be self-led for a few hours at a time, and I want to be able to learn more about this. And that's when I started studying and diving more deeply into that. And that's also when all of the other kids who were in our homeschooling groups also had all of these kids who were neurodiverse and would struggle with transitions. And the parents would say, can you help me? What are you doing? What is working for you? How come, how did you do that? And things. So that's when I started doing more deep dives in research and studying clinical herbalism and aromatherapy, so that I could be more in clinical practice, because I felt that I wasn't in a position to share things with people unless I was able to make sure it was safe for them. And, knowing how sensitive my daughter was, I met a whole world of people that were like that were also sensitive and couldn't handle any scent, any fragrance, you can't be in a elevator with someone who had used dryer sheets, people having anaphylaxis. My daughter wore a many years, in the world before it was during COVID, because it would protect her from scents. Can't still to this day walk down the laundry detergent aisle in a store. So all of those things, growing our own food, and then, growing all of our own herbs, because I'm a gardener too. We started out just, again, Jade and I have so much in common, because I also, in Chicago, I would grow everything in these pots in all these weird little places. And we were right across from a fire station too. So it was like everything I had, it was like, where can I have it where I'm not, they could actually see our fire escape. So I even grew things like on the washing machine that was there for everyone, so everybody had to move all my pots, and then but everyone was really nice in the building, and then move everything back. And then when we moved to Madison, we were in an apartment first, and I had so much on the deck that you couldn't actually step out there at some point. And my husband was like, we have to have a yard. This is not working. And when we lived in the next house, we got to the point where all that was left of the yard was a single path down the center that you could barely fit the mower through. So then we were like, well, we need a bigger yard. And we moved to a bigger yard. And at that home is when we realized we needed acreage. And so we moved here in 2018, and I have, also like Jade, a United Plant Savers Botanical Sanctuary. I grow endangered and at-risk plants, both medicinal and aromatic plants here, as well as some food. And I studied permaculture, so that, I felt like all of those things tie so critically together. You can't have aromatherapy without herbalism, and you can't have aromatherapy without an awareness of the environment that the plants grow in, how to caretake them, how they grow, what makes them create these volatile chemicals that we are utilizing. What in the environment stresses a plant and makes it really amazingly powerful, and also then we need to, if we're going to caretake these plants that we want to use, we have to caretake the environment and have the right environment. Our soil, our water, the pollinators, all of these things have to be working for the plants to survive and thrive. And so all of those things are really why that's basically my entire life. And all I do every minute of the day is herbalism, aromatherapy, and plants.
Very good. I'm the same way, but it's interesting because I started with a little refrigerator for my essential oils, and then I went into a standing refrigerator for the essential oils and all the butters and everything that I make. And now I have a full size
Nice,
refrigerator
yes.
that is for all the products that I make. I tell the refrigerator is 20 years old because when we
Mhm.
bought a new one, put that one in the garage. And
Yep.
he said, I'm not, if this one dies, don't even think about it. I'm not getting a bigger one. So I said, well, get a bigger one. And
Yeah.
the same thing outside. I grow a lot of the herbs. I made sure we moved that I had enough land because I'm in an adult community where
Mhm.
I can grow stuff. So I
Yeah.
can't grow vegetables, but I could grow everything else. I'd love
Yeah.
to grow pot, but they won't allow it yet. So I really would love. I have somebody who's willing to give me a marijuana plant, but you can't grow it yet in New Jersey.
Yeah, my state, you can
Buy
only
it.
grow like government approved, like state approved
Right,
hemp
same thing.
seeds.
It has
Yep.
to be government. I would love to grow it, but oh well.
Yeah.
Jade, tell me about the school that you run now. Where is it? How big is it? And also the land that you have that you do a lot of that you own, and I know you do retreats on it.
Yeah.
So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I have the School for Aromatic Studies, and it's 35 years I've had a school, because right away when I returned from the UK into the United States, um, I mean, I wanted to practice, but within my region, nobody really knew what aromatherapy was. Do you know? Again, there was no internet as we know it today, or social media. So as I kind of approached different practitioners to work with, like an esthetician, if I could, I was going to do massage and reflexology. It was called holistic aromatherapy, was if you did massage or reflexology. So I would talk to different estheticians, one of which I ended up working with in Boston. And then I started hanging signs around, like, because this again, it was like you had threefold brochures you like would pass out to people, and community boards, like your practice. So I can't remember where I was going to go with that. Um, Oh, why I developed a school, because everyone kept asking me, what is aromatherapy? Do you know? And to me, I always say, like, it was obviously my dharma, because it gave me a lot to write about. I haven't stopped writing. I'm like, when is this coming to an end? No, not really. But um, so so everyone kept asking, what is aromatherapy? What is aromatherapy? And before I knew it, I was teaching at like adult community education programs, which were very popular. That was in, the early 90s. Um, aesthetic schools, massage schools, and then I developed the New England Center for Holistic Aromatherapy, and developed my first kind of certificate program, and have been teaching ever since. So the School for Aromatic Studies is 35 plus years old. I now have instructors in different countries around the world, from Indonesia, Vietnam, Russia, um, Hungary, the Ukraine, um, Argentina. I don't want to forget anyone. Bulgaria, Canada,
Yeah, they're
French
gonna see this.
Canada, French
Yeah.
Canada. And then instructors in this country, in the United States as well. So they teach my curriculum. They, teach to their community. And what I love the most is that they get to teach in their native language. And I think that's really important, because there's nuances. They can change, the content to express what's common in their own culture. So I've really learned a lot through working with individuals around the world, and kind of how aromatherapy training will fit into what is happening in their own country. So, and it's been surprising that many countries, it's kind of just in the development phase. People are just beginning to look at certification or want certification. Um, and learn, like, deepen their knowledge of aromatherapy, like on the therapeutic, like not just fluff and whatever, but just how it can be healing, a healing modality, whether it's for the skin or for the psychological benefits. So, I think about 7 years ago, I bought 70 acres in kind of rural Virginia. It's like in the middle of nowhere. Kind of um, an hour, I guess. Roanoke is one of the largest cities I'm close to, Roanoke, Virginia. And I have pasture. I have quite a large garden where, like Denise, I grow both medicinal and aromatic plants. So anything from echinacea and, I'm always trying different things. Even tea tree and eucalyptus species grow well here. I mean, I don't bring them inside, so they do die tragically over the winter. So I do harvest them, distill them, make kind of cleansing wands or something with the material. But I love seeing them. And again, that when you smell an aroma from a plant, your mind expands its palette so it can pick up the nuances of, when you're smelling an essential oil. And maybe you didn't like something, like I didn't like tea tree at all. But then when I grew it, I developed this sensitivity to those nuances. Oh, I never noticed that. And then I would go to the essential oil. I'd be like, oh, okay, now I'm developing this relationship with tea tree. So pasture, I have 2 spring-fed ponds, forest, quite a bit of forest, mostly pine, maple, tulip poplar, even a little bit of the mimosa tree is here, and then I have fruit like peach trees,
You have
plums.
people that help you, especially when it comes
I
to
do. I
harvesting
do
now.
have some people
I
that
hope
come
you
from
don't do it yourself.
I do a lot of it myself, but I also have some people that come and help me with specific projects. And yeah. And then I just developed the classroom space. This was a kind of a pole barn, and I converted it into kind of a kitchen space where I make my herbal oils. And then it's used for classroom space. We have student cabins, bathhouse, showers. So I have held a couple of retreats here for botanical body care products formulation. And then next year, I'm moving into a slightly different realm because I do like writing. We're going to do more on autobiographical writing and kind of more just like a women's retreat to rest and digest life. So I'm kind of moving in that direction. I have a big interest in aromatics and mental health, so I just feel an autobiographical writing kind of merges well with aromatics for emotional psychological well-being. So that's kind of my next movement for the school, for our retreats here at the farm, because just to give people a simple space, not high-end fancy spa, that's very expensive, but just a simple place to reconnect with nature, listen to the birds, the crickets, the cicadas, the owls, the wind blowing and the water flowing. Hopefully, right now we're in a little bit of a drought, but well, a big severe drought actually, but but it's still a beautiful place for people to come and just simplify and disconnect from the technology and really experience community. Yeah, here at the farm. So
I will tell you that the courses that you give are very structured.
yeah.
Uh, I graduated from Aroma Head originally, but I took your French aromatherapy course, and to tell you the truth, it was better
Well,
and had
thank
more
you.
to it. I learned more from that course than I
Thank you.
did getting certified.
Yeah,
You just go very deep
I do.
and you explain
Yeah,
everything. You
yeah,
don't just
yeah,
explain black and white.
Yeah.
So it was a
It might be
great
because
book.
my father's a PhD. He's a professor. So I'm just, and I wrote one of my first books was Aromatherapy for Body Workers. It was through Prentice Hall. It was meant to be a textbook. So I really learned a lot about pedagogy and like how to write and the learning objectives and, so, and I like to have a lot of information.
Right. It's
So
very important
yeah,
because, like,
yeah,
very similar to frankincense, unfortunately, it's not taught. The
yeah,
resin is not taught in aromatherapy schools at all.
yeah,
It
yeah,
surfaces on the resin and then it goes deep into the essential oil. But you
yeah,
need baby steps before you could walk. So you
yeah,
need to learn. That's why I push learning the resins first
yeah,
before learning the essential oil. So it's very
yeah.
important. So
Thank you.
Denise,
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
talk about my favorite one, Herbalists Without Borders, that I got very deeply involved with, and mostly because of what you do with it. And also tell us also about the acre of land and how you incorporated into Herbalists Without Borders.
Hmm. I started volunteering with Herbalists Without Borders in about 2014, I think. And one of my first projects volunteering with, was to redo the website. And I started volunteering in a few other ways. And during that time, I started doing work in my community that was about, like, we had a whole summer because my kids were homeschooled. So we had the Happy Flower Project one summer where I swapped land with someone. I did all of her design work for her soap business so that I could grow a lot of herbs on her property to see how much I could handle by myself. Because I was like, we're going to get land someday and but I have to know that I can manage this much. So we grew herbs and flowers all summer and we took them to the food pantry and we made bouquets every week. So we would I think we took 900 bouquets to the food pantry in that one summer because people would, it makes you so happy. It makes you feel good. The beauty of it, the smell, it was like aromatherapy in living plant. And because people feel so judged if they're on like Snap or anything like that to go and buy themselves something like flowers. So they would put them all out for the community meals and then everyone could take them home. And then we also had so many herbs. So I would bag up herbs because again, no one donated that. People donated canned beans, frozen pizzas. And I thought, you know what, let's grow like all of these different herbs. And then I realized people were interested in growing. So I would start doing seeds. And so all of this is what led me into Herbalists Without Borders, is to find ways to do this type of work on a bigger scale, because that really opened my eyes to how much need there was and how little there was to help. Food pantries are incredible. They do amazing work. They get so much food to people. But when you start looking at that, it's like, well, people don't have access to wellness or preventative health or, all of these herbs are really expensive. If you even could see someone and you're like, I don't, this isn't doctor worthy. It's not severe where I need to go see a medical doctor. And then also realizing when I was working with people that there were all of these farm laborers who weren't in a system and didn't go to the doctor and they needed support too. And then I was like, well, let's figure out what herbs are relevant to them because, they want Jamaica. So I was trying to grow hibiscus, and I was all of these things. So it led me down this path. That I had already been on in a little bit in helping my sister and working with my sister with kids who had been kicked out of the Chicago school system and seeing how much mental health support was needed. So working with the food pantry really got that rolling. And then around that time, I also was doing Earth Scouts for kids where we would also grow food. I would teach them how to grow food and herbs. And then we would walk up the hill and the kids would donate all of it to the food pantry right there. So it got all of the kids kind of realizing that there's food insecurity, that you can grow, food. It can go directly from a plot to a table. So when Herbalists Without Borders, I had been volunteering for a while. And so when Gigi said, I'm stepping down, would you be interested in volunteering as the executive director? I said, sure. And that completely changed my entire life forever. um, and with that, when I first started with Herbalists Without Borders, there were only 40 members. The budget was like only a few $1,000s, and there were no physical programs because it was everyone cobbling together whatever they could from local people to create these programs. And the very first time I ever thought of having the US Donation Network, it was because of a giant hurricane. Hurricane Harvey hit. I was actually driving to go pick up all of the supplies from Gigi and was standing on the side of a road when an herbalist had called my cell phone and was like, what do I do? Oh my gosh. And I realized, okay, I have skills in this because I worked for a hospital to put myself through college. I managed like a whole entire infrastructure of transit of like patients and ambulances and, for Northwestern Memorial Hospital. And I was like, I can do all of this, but on an herbal level. So started getting supplies, and then everyone started mailing me supplies. And I was like, okay, I need a system for this. So what that started as, and then I wanted to make sure we incorporated aromatherapy because those tools are really self-explanatory and really easy for people to understand, even with different languages. I think the second disaster was the earthquake in Nepal. And then I started meeting people from all over the world, and I started working with some folks in Kenya and Uganda and then the Zambia, and all of this, started happening with the hurricanes in the Caribbean. And I was working with folks on Dominica and then, Puerto Rico, all of these things. And I was like, there is such a need. There is no infrastructure that can do this. And what I saw was whenever there was a disaster, there were call outs, but the popular herbalists and aromatherapists would get a lot of supplies, and people of color, indigenous folks, or people in small towns or communities like in Appalachia or places like that would get nothing. And so some people, one thing that happened was there was the migrant caravan going through Central America that was going to end up in Tijuana. And all of these people did call outs, and one person, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm also not meaning this to shame anyone. It was just an enlightening moment for me. One person had an entire full van packed full of herbs and aromatherapy, drove to Tijuana and had no idea what to do with it. And so dumped it at a tent where Food.Bombs was set up. And there were some people who were doing things. And then they were robbed of all of the funds that were donated to them. And so then they just gave the rest of the money to some cafe who was feeding people and then left. And I was like, that's like $15,000 of wasted, probably more actually.
Wow.
You know what? And then nobody else had any of that material who were going there that had contacts already in the community or people who are already from there. What about the people in Tijuana who are already serving their own community and had the infrastructure and the knowledge and the language to actually help people? So I started the donation network because, I thought I could do it by myself. And so started going out and saying, what we could do. So nothing is wasted. There was another event too, a Hurricane Harvey, where someone had called me a year or two later and said, I've had probably, a year's worth of herbs sitting out in my garage for 2 years in the Texas heat. Is it any good anymore? Can I share it with anybody? And it's kind of like, that's again, $10,000 of just waste.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, well, what if everybody ships me everything? And then I can say, you send me 5 pounds. Well, they only need a half. They need 8 ounces. They need 4 ounces. And I can ship everything everywhere. And then if you're in the middle of a disaster and you don't have water, you don't have electricity, but you still are like, well, I have a generator and I want to help. You can't be making and labeling things in your garage with your unwashed hands because you don't have running water. So what if I make everything, label it, have it all ready and ship it to you, and everything's ready to distribute? And you could do like care packs or, everything. You don't have to prepare everything. You don't have to store it. So I started doing that. And it has grown to the point where now I have about 1,500 square feet of my home is dedicated to Herbalists Without Borders. I have vast quantity. I have a palette of essential oils that are recently that I have not unloaded fully yet, and carrier oils and things that have been donated. But so much, I have so many suppliers now come to me and say, you know, this is all going to go in the garbage. You know, do you need it? And so, you know, we work to try to get all of that here and then redistribute it. But honestly, Herbalists Without Borders has, you know, 650 members now. And we started with 40. I ship around the whole entire country, as well as, you know, depending on, we don't have money. That's how it is. There's no money. I do so much and we don't have any money. But, you know, I ship even to other countries based on what we can do. I send shipping giant buckets to Africa that go on, I get different charities to donate space on their shipping container that they're sending to Africa. And they'll let me put one of those giant like rain barrels that can be sealed so it protects everything. I've even sent computers to Africa so that they could do consultations with clients and type in their recommendations and print them out. I've sent every single herbalist, you know, American Herbalist Guild magazine and every single aromatherapy magazine to Kenya so that everybody can read and get more education. I've written, and I love to write like Jade. I've done like probably over 1,000 pages of content that's gone to people in almost every country in every language you could imagine. And so
you do the journal for Herbalists
yes,
Without Borders.
yeah, we have a magazine so that we can, and it's
Fabulous.
free. Because I thought, well, we need to teach people how to work in their communities because everyone wants to help. We all live where someone needs, you know, where someone is in need. And so many people have experienced trauma. And it doesn't mean, oh, only people who have, you know, experienced a hurricane have experienced trauma. I mean, most people who are migrants to our country right now are experiencing trauma and fear and stress and panic attacks. And so mental health is such a huge thing. And so that's what I've really been focusing on. And that's why I started growing, because we weren't getting all the herbs donated that we needed. And so I was like, well, I can grow it. So I grow everything, you know, that I can try to grow. Some things I can't grow in my climate because I'm, you know, I think we're now 5A. I was 4A before, 4B. But, you know, all of these things, you know, I grow now so that I can have the herbs that we don't get donated. And, you know, I've talked to a couple big herbal places and I've found out that they toss, you know, 100,000 pounds of herbs a year because, you know, of things expiring or not being fine enough grind, you know, where it's otherwise perfectly fine. And so some of those things I still feel like we need to, you know, we have a lot of work to do to try to get some of these supplies. And so right now I'm working with doing a mentoring program where people can gain clinical experience and clinical hours. So that, because a lot of people go to online schools and then don't, you know, live where they can do that. So if people can volunteer for Herbalists Without Borders clinics, we're creating protocols and a training program so that people know how to set up a clinic, what supplies do you need, what kind of forms, what kind of, you know, what kind of waivers, how do you set this up, what types of programs can you do, how to set up an educational class, how to have a make and take class, how to, you know, I do seed grants where I distribute probably 6,000 or more packets of seeds a year and teach people how to grow so that they can grow food and medicine locally. I work with a lot of seed programs around the whole country to teach them how to grow herbs because they only know how to grow food, you know, and how to use the plants. And that's why, again, I keep saying this, but I don't think that herbalism and aromatherapy can be cleaved apart. It's kind of like, you know, you're driving on the front two wheels and you're driving on the back two wheels, but your car's not going anywhere because, you know, it's not whole. And I really think that, and that's why I started like consciously saying in herbalism too, and talking about aromatherapy, because so many herbalists were anti-aromatherapy, like lividly, angrily anti-aromatherapy. And yet there's just as much waste or poor harvesting decisions and, unethical foraging or unsustainable harvesting in herbalism, just like there can be in aromatherapy. And so I think that by, even while all this is happening, I think it's important to constantly be educating people, not only on things like safety, on community work, on how to do this work, how to give without always giving everything. How can we support other people and make a difference? But also that aromatherapy is a valid part of herbalism and that we can do it ethically and sustainably at the same time, and vice versa. And so I think that herbalists need to know aromatherapy, and I think aromatherapists need to know herbalism for it to really
Exactly.
work. That
Yeah.
was a long
So
one,
I'm going to
sorry.
hit you.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
going to
okay.
hit you with this first before I even hit Jade, since
Oh,
you're
okay.
talking already. All right. So yes, you have Herbalists Without Borders.
hmm
You have children. And so if you become vice president, how are you going to put it all together? How
Well,
are you
the
going to
wonderful
work?
thing about having our own businesses and working for ourselves is that we are the master of our own schedule, And so it's important to volunteer in the community of aromatherapy and herbalism. I think, I have a lot of nonprofit experience. I went to the University of Milwaukee just for nonprofit management. And have done grant writing, and I'm a Virgo. If that tells anybody, I'm very organized. So with things like
Yes.
that, I know that it's important that we all share our skills, because it is really important that we continue to develop our profession. I really, and I think Jade is very similar to me, integrative medicine should be inclusive of aromatherapy and herbalism. And what we see often is that it's just like TCM, for example, because that's a licensed practice. And so they think, well, that since they're licensed, that's safe. And since they're not licensed, that's not safe. And so I work on presenting at integrative medicine conferences, on working with physicians, on working with medical practices and different types of clinics, because I think it's really important that that we have the research, we have the education, but that we also know how to use it, and that we are there, because I think integrative medicine is, the doctors don't actually have time. They can study herbalism, and they can understand what it is and be supportive of it, but they can't practice it because they don't have time. They have 4 minutes,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
by building our reputation, our visibility, and our profession, then we can have doctors who refer people to us for that portion of the care, because they understand what herbalism and aromatherapy can be and how it can be a part of a care plan for someone. And for us to do that, being a part of organizations like NAHA is really important, because we all need to work together to make sure that we continue. And maybe some people are like, but wait, I don't want to do that. I just want to make lotion and, sell my product. And some people are like, well, all I want to do is research, and that's fine. All of us, though, you need to work under some sort of united idea that we're all furthering our practice and our profession, because it is very important that we have a seat at the table of integrative and alternative care. And I know we all agree on that anyway, but I think that that's why. And so finding time, to me, isn't the question. Managing your time and your skills so that you can work together with other people can be so profoundly changing of our profession and of our industry. And that's why I like the idea, of always having different people rotate into organizations, because you get different skill sets, you get different experiences and backgrounds, which is so amazing. That's what with Herbalists Without Borders, our board of directors, it's like, let's get some people. Let's have some new people, because it brings fresh energy. It brings new ideas, and it rejuvenates things, so that we're always, I always say, like, I joke that there's a Denise show with Herbalists Without Borders sometimes, but, you don't want it to only be that, because I'm better when I have other people working with me. I'm better when I listen to other people's input and ideas. And I think we're all like that. We're better when we share and collaborate. I think collaboration is the key. And so that's what I love about the idea of working with Jade. How lucky am I, right? Because we learn from each other, but we also can make a difference. And I think that's why we're all here.
And Jade, I'm putting you on the spot. So tell me,
So the
how
question
you
is,
gonna
how
integrate?
will I make time?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but uh, same as Denise. I mean, I'm self-employed, so I have, I'm in control of my schedule. Um, and I just think it's an important thing to devote some time to. And one of I know our goals that we've discussed as kind of a team or a group is to hire an executive director to take over the day-to-day operations, to move the NAHA office so that it's kind of independent and separate from the board. And for me, like, I'm really interested in both my generation. Of course, we need to be honored, but looking forward into the next generation coming into the organization, a potential barrier to running for office might be, oh, I don't have time. I don't, I can't run an office, or, whatever. So setting NAHA up to have an executive director in a separate office kind of opens up the field to more people, whether they're older or younger, running for office, being, participating in the governance of the organization. So I think that, because the organization has grown considerably. I was once like Denise, where I did everything when, in at least one of my presidencies, even though we always had an employee, I did a lot of other stuff like the journal and, helping. Well, I didn't design the website, but working with the web designer, not the one we have right now. So, I did a lot of the back end work, but those were my days where I was working a lot. As I'm getting older, I don't want to work so much. So it's just really, I think, yes, setting the organization up, having effective, agendas. What are we going to accomplish? Who needs to take responsibility for what? I just think that's a fully functioning board helps to get the task done that need to get done by dividing up the work, and having, this office running efficiently and effectively for the members, while we do, things that support the membership and the
Right. You can
organization's
add,
growth.
you can put in the rest of my next question, which is
Okay.
part of what you're saying is, what do you want to do for NAHA? Which you're now saying, give us some more. Might as well give us the
So,
rest.
I mean, top of the list for me is that all professional members, level 1, level 2, level 3, have equal rights within the organization. It's something I've advocated for. So, I mean, that's for me the top of the agenda for the first few months. It's an easy one to send out a very simple, basic bylaw change to have membership vote on that. But that's really, really important to me, that level 1, level 2, and level 3 members are all equally professional members with full voting rights and the right to run for office. I think it just really closes the gap to any members that may feel excluded from kind of the governance of the organization, so that they can have full participation, and rightly so, because they are a credentialed category of membership. They are required to have CE hours. So, I don't understand, why they wouldn't have voting rights. Another thing that's really important is term limits. The vast majority of nonprofit organizations have term limits, and they're
Exactly.
there for a very specific reason. And one is to continue board turnover and giving more members the opportunity to step forward in leadership roles, to bring new energy, new ideas. There is, when a board just serves forever, or for a very very long time, there's what's called like board blindness. Like
Mhm.
they just, begin to see things in a very narrow viewpoint, no fault of their own. It's just a part of the natural cycle of being a part of something for so long. So, and, and more importantly, NAHA specifically is a nonprofit organization. It is owned by its members. And so I feel like loyalty should always remain with the membership and not with the board. And that feels like kind of what can happen is that people think, oh, this board, I just am familiar with them. Like, I don't want things to change. And yet change is exactly what needs to happen. Just to give life to an organization where members have served for a really long time. So NAHA's bylaws, they're incredibly outdated. They were actually changed during Michelle Miller's term drastically without proper voting by the membership, where term limits were taken out, a lot of little things, but so the bylaws have been needing a serious update, and not based on just our knowledge, unless we have a specific nonprofit knowledge of bylaws, but to work with legal counsel, to work with nonprofit advisors to how do we improve our bylaws so that it aligns with the organization's goals and mission. Also honors the members, excuse me, and provides those term limits so that there's continual board turnover, and the focus remains on the members and not the board. So I think that's super important. And then along with bylaw work, I think having some operational priorities, I'm very interested in having a kind of more transparent financial reporting to the membership. We're often referred to the 990. The 990 is very specific to the IRS. I do have a bachelor's in accounting. I did my own accounting for many, many years, tax law. And so it's easier for me to have a look at the 990 and see like what the information I want to get. But members really deserve kind of in plain language where the funds have gone, where their membership dues have been spent on what, what specific research project, and how our employees are being paid, just overall, members should be very well informed. AIA used to do this years ago. They used to publish a very simple overview at the end of the year of everything the board had accomplished, and a very clear information about the finances of the organization. I just think that would be really helpful for members to understand. It also helps us as a potential new board to see where we can reduce where some of the money is going and better put that into some membership benefits or support membership scholarships of some kind. So it just allows us to find ways of reducing maybe excess expenses and using that money in a different way. NAHA puts a fair amount of money into research, anywhere it could be from $4,000 to $60,000. I can't remember. Maybe actually the highest amount was just under $40,000. And I feel like, and it's always gone to just one research facility, and the research has been phenomenal. It's really been incredibly beneficial research, but there's NAHA members all over the world doing research who could potentially benefit from having access to research funds. So one of the things we've discussed is having an application process of some kind to look at, and maybe even member participation, like where are our interests as a community, and who's doing that type of research, and maybe even multiple types of research funding could be given out, across NAHA's community. I do think, bookkeeping, it's still important to me, even though I have my great love of aromatherapy. I have my background in financial management and accounting. So hiring a bookkeeper that keeps monthly accounts, gives a clearer image of where the money's coming in from, whether it's conference income or membership income or donation income, which we don't really have at this time. And then a specific nonprofit focused accountant to really help us with the 990 reports. So we maintain our 501c3 status with the IRS. And then I've already mentioned hiring an executive director. I just think that's really important. NAHA is large enough and has the income to have an executive director and to relocate the offices to really remove them from any potential conflict of interest with board members. And I just think that's a really important thing. So all kind of my ideas is simply to protect NAHA's future and for sure open the door for kind of that younger generation to come in and move the field into the direction, it's going to continue to evolve and morph, and, different aspects of it will become more popular or more visible. So to really empower that younger generation to move aromatherapy forward. And, just my last thing would be, when I decided to run for office, because I think about it quite a lot these days, in my heart, it was to really improve and expand what NAHA represents, I guess, in a really ethical and compassionate way. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So.
like it. Agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
Denise, you want to add on your
Sure.
role as vice president?
Yeah, the vice president's role is to support the president, most importantly, because, when you're working with an organization, it's always good to have two minds, like I was saying, collaboration, working together, having different thoughts or opinions, and being able to rely on someone else as well, I think is really important. And having a relationship where you trust someone and that you can work together because you know that you both have a united goal and that you both are aligned in what you want to have happen for the organization. And I think that's why running kind of, even though we're not running, there's no such thing as a slate with the way that NAHA works. The reason that we're unified in this is because if one person goes in to make change, you still kind of come up against the status quo. And that's nothing against anyone who is the status quo. That's just what happens. That's a natural thing with human behavior, is that the people who've been there the longest time, this is how it works, this is how it goes. And that happens in organizations. It'll happen at McDonald's, just like it would happen with a nonprofit. It happens in our government as well. Anyone who comes in, it's kind of like, nah, that's not how we do it. But that is where we kind of shortchange an organization and a community, because we're not able to really look at new ideas and kind of see those things through and really kind of evolve an organization. And, with a few things like what Jade mentioned, like modernizing governance, one example that I can share is GuideStar is kind of an industry standard where nonprofits receive a rating like a silver, gold, or platinum. And the reason that they have GuideStar, a lot of people won't donate unless your nonprofit is on GuideStar. And GuideStar requires financial transparency. How much are your board members being paid if they're also employees? It requires how many people do you have? What do they do? What are your financials? How often are you disclosing this important information? Do you have a conflict of interest policy? Do you have any of these other policies that the IRS doesn't just suggest, but pretty much, they give you a little option, but it really isn't optional. And so with GuideStar, that type of thing and annual reports to the members, I think are so critical, because it's not only about, well, it just proves to other people outside of the organization that we're trustworthy and financially transparent, but it holds an organization accountable to its members. And that's really important, because at any moment, even if it's unfounded, if someone comes and says, hey, I haven't seen your finances in 7 years, something happened with the money, you can just say, no, we've been transparent. Here are reportings. Here are quarterly reports that our accountant has prepared for us that we've reviewed as a board. Everything that we do is, we're talking to the members, because the members are the owners. It's not the board that owns an organization when it's a nonprofit. That's why we have voting, because the members are the owners, and the members select who is running, or who gets into those roles. So being on GuideStar is just one kind of example of how NAHA can increase its visibility and trustworthiness to our community at large. And also, we're talking about open financial transparency. It also then encourages our members to ask questions, to get more involved, and to step up, I think, because it says, no, you are a part of this organization. You actually are the ones we're just your representatives. That's how the board is. The board isn't, we now are the owners and we can do whatever we want. It's that the members are the owners, and we've been elected to represent them. And so in that, I think that's really important, to make sure that an organization is kind of looking at that and including the membership in everything, which is where I think having feedback from members is really important. Today, every single organization that you would ever join, you get a monthly webinar, you get a directory listing, but is that really what our members need in today's technology? What is our aromatherapy? What do aromatherapy practitioners need? What do business owners need? What do schools
Yeah.
need? Those all are they might be different things. And we might, if we assume what all the members need in today's market that is changing rapidly with AI, we may be totally off mark. So by listening to members, by getting feedback, having things like town halls or surveys, it's
Yeah.
not anything against the status quo. It's just a new way of maybe listening to feedback from members in a more rapid way, because we're living in a rapid paced environment where technology and all of this infrastructure that we're used to working in is changing. And
Yeah.
by listening to members and listening to the young generation of people too, who are more tech savvy, they may say, yeah, you know what, I don't need this, but I really need this. And that's where
Yeah.
it's really important for an organization to respond in a timely manner and be able to pivot. And it doesn't mean swerving all over the place. You stay aligned with the mission. But sometimes, that mission is informed by what the members need and what people say, by listening to them. And if you never listen, you never know. And that's when organizations get into trouble. And then
Yeah.
also, doing things like a digital footprint or a digital, assessment of what technologies are being used right now. And then what is needed by the members. I know I try to upload my continuing education credits and there's no button. I log in and it sends me to a page not found page. So there are
Yeah.
little things like that that might be making our members frustrated. And if
Yeah.
we can listen to them, get the feedback, and then respond by making updates that can really transform how we work as an organization, I think that that's all positive. And, if members don't want anything either, that's fine. But it's really important to listen and not assume.
I agree. I want to make comment that, one of the things right now is, according, NAHA says it has 7,000 members, but I just want to say that doesn't really say anything, right? What we really want to know is how many level 1, how many level 2, how many level 3, how many businesses, how many donors, grand donors, how many friend members, and have them like kind of categorize and where, right? Where are these members? I'm really interested. I think most members, it's like where are our memberships? At what level are they? And yeah. So having a more clear demographics of who is involved with the organization would really help all the members and also feel more community oriented just to, oh yeah, and to know, oh, there's like 5 members so in my neighborhood or in my state or down the road or whatever. So clarifying that. And then I do want to speak to the website. The website, I had a website built in 2013 and 14. I did a fundraiser. I raised the money through an image database. It was a beautiful website at the time, but very quickly, because technology does change really fast, and then it got kind of revamped, but the underlying system of NAHA's website is actually still the same. And that's what is creating the problems. And so currently, according to the 990s, NAHA's spending anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 on IT, and some of that includes all the back end cost of having a website and like the mailing list, MailChimp, or whatever service they're using. I believe it's MailChimp. So I mean, there's definitely cost associated with running a business, like IT wise, but it's possible through a completely updated website, because it does need to happen, and make it more functioning and
Oh,
easier to
definitely.
find an aromatherapist in different states or different
When you
countries.
go to I have EU credits that I have not been able to put up for over a
Yeah.
year
So I
because I
mean,
have the same problem. If you go to put them up, it crashes.
it's not
So
there.
I just
So
gave up.
yeah, that functionality is, would be easier if it was a new site. This was a question we talked about in during the annual general meeting. And I don't feel like it was properly addressed by anybody, because, the first response might be, well, it's expensive. Yes, it's expensive up front, but long term, it reduces expenses considerably, especially right now looking at IT costs, which are very high for the size of NAHA as an organization. So I feel like investing in a updated, there's so many new systems that can be used effectively for the membership, and reduce long-term cost and monthly kind of maintenance. I mean, really monthly maintenance could be about $150 to $250, just if there's plugins that need to be updated, or because I mean, it's like our systems that whatever, if you use Microsoft, or the internet, it's like every other month there's some kind of update you have to install. And that's what a kind of a web designer does in their support role, is just to make those little tweaks and updates each month. So I think that's an important thing, because again, I am interested in seeing where money can be freed up to devote to members, especially in today's economy. I think a lot of members, business owners, practitioners, product creators, makers, all need more support from the organization and highlighting their business, talking more about what an aromatherapy practitioner does or looks like, and supports people, and visiting an aromatherapy. I just feel like this is part of the energy that needs to be renewed, and kind of a commitment on behalf of the organization to provide support for its memberships or members. And specifically, once we know who our members are, and we do questionnaires, and learn more about the members, what we need to do to support their success in the field. So yeah, it's important. Thank you for
It's very
asking.
important. I was years and years ago, when my kids were little, I was president of an organization called ORT, and it's an organization of rehabilitation and training. And what it was originally set up was in Israel. And what they did is they taught Jewish women who were poor and neglected and put them a trade so they could go out and work. It became
Right.
so popular that they opened it up to non-Jews, and they opened it up and made chapters all over the world, including the United States. And I was head of the chapter. Every state had a different main chapter, and I was head of the chapter in New Jersey. And yes, we only had a 4-year term. That's it. After 4 years, because as a president, you burn out. It's a
Yep.
huge responsibility to be president. And
Yep.
if you're there for 10 years, you lose everything you basically tried to put together in the first place. And it's the same old, the same old. So it was very
Yeah.
strict. Every 4 years, the president changed. And I actually was thrilled because after 4 years, I had enough. But, and of course, I still stayed involved, but you need that. You can't, you must have, as I call, new blood. You can't have
Yes.
board members in a position for 8 or 9, the same board members in a position for 8 or 9 years. It's human
Mhm.
nature. You lose everything that you've been trying to accomplish because it's the same ideas. Your ideas are not going to change. Your feelings
Yeah.
are not going to change. You need new people. Oh, that's something new. I never tried that before. So you need, I mean, in our own lives, we need new things. We need people to tell us, oh, try it this way. Maybe it'll work better. And that's very important. So that's
And
why
that's
I
I
where
believe in
succession planning is really important. And that's one of those things that should be incorporated into all boards of directors. You know, succession planning isn't just about choosing and endorsing one person that you think is going to be replacing you. A succession plan is actually the way in which you entice or train or build bridges to your members so that more people get involved, more people want to help the organization, and more people naturally fall into leadership roles because they've been serving in other areas in the organization. You know, it's not
Yeah.
about cherry picking, is not what succession planning is. Succession planning is long-term goals, and that is strategic planning, which the board should be doing. And strategic planning does include, like, are we making sure that we're still on our mission? Are we having mission drift? How are our finances? How is our technology? All of those things. But it also is the future of your industry, all of
Yeah.
the future of your leadership, and how you bring people to the front and encourage people who are from the younger generation to step up and be welcoming of people so that you naturally have people filling these roles consistently over time. And boards should not have
Exactly.
all of their officers expire at the exact same time. That is not
Right.
how normal boards work. That is why
Right.
you have offset terms and term limits. If you have half of these, the recommendation is that half of your board expires year one and half of your board would expire the next year, and then half your board expires the next year. So you
Yeah.
never are like, oh my gosh, we can't replace the whole entire board. You always have
Right.
continuity,
Right.
but yet you still
Right.
are always encouraging new members to come in and be elected. In that way, you can
Right.
welcome members with open arms and say, yes, we want you. Yes, run. You want there to be competitive,
Yeah.
elections, because it means that people are passionate, they want to help,
Yeah.
and that they want to get
Yeah.
involved. And that's a positive thing.
I agree. It's like cultivating leadership in your community, whether it's with, like, for NAHA through its director network
Mhm,
or other, members that are
mhm,
interested in assuming leadership, and, and encouraging that,
mhm,
like, it's important, and like I said, I agree, Robin, what you were saying is like there's it's called institutional blindness, where
Mhm.
you're so used to doing things this way that it's difficult to either accept or even see that a change might be beneficial both for the organization and for its membership. And to me, a good leader is an honorable leader that leaves leaves the office in honor of the new people coming in. Do you
Mhm.
know, like, who knows and understands and appreciates, even if it's heartbreaking to leave office or leave, it's like retiring from one's career and doing something different. It's just it it honors the industry when that happens,
And
yeah.
we're stewards of these roles. We're not
And we're
owners of these
stewards.
roles.
Right.
That's the
Exactly.
key. And
Yeah.
that's why, there should be, usually what happens with boards is there are committees and people get involved with committees and then they lead projects and then they're engaged and there always is a board member involved in reporting back to the board what the committees are working on. And those
Yeah.
those committee members then know more about the organization. They're ready to step into leadership roles. They've been
Yeah.
participating, in all of these different areas. And, you're confident that someone stepping in who's been involved for a few years already on a committee knows what's happening. They know the
Yeah.
organization. They're ready to
Yeah.
lead.
No, you
Yeah.
And
have
then,
to have
yeah.
committees. We had committees. We had about 20 different committees, and we had people that were in charge of those committees
Mhm.
who reported to the board. So it
Right.
wasn't a burden just on the board.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and everything has to be a circle and organized. If there's
Mhm.
no
Yeah.
organization, you have nothing. Then you
Yeah.
don't know what's going on in the organization.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have anything to wrap up? Anything to say?
Hmm.
Or you've said it all?
Yeah, I feel like we've really covered a lot. Um, one of the things I shared during the annual general meeting was, we're all NAHA members. We shouldn't have a feeling like we're pitted against each other or like, we're the
Mhm.
outsiders. We all belong to this organization. We may see it differently or think about it differently, but there's a way that we can dialogue about our differences, find that middle ground if possible. But we are all members, and NAHA represents all of us, So I know for me, as in a leadership role, I want all members to feel welcome, honored, and respected. So, yeah, I think it's an important part of the organization's role. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why bringing everyone together and being united and being positive and working as, collaboratively as not only as a board, but as an organization, listening to people, getting
Yeah.
feedback, being open to new ideas or suggestions. All of those things are signs of a healthy nonprofit organization. And so that I
Exactly.
think is really what we hope we strive for, is to unite our community, and make everyone be able to express their passion, in the way that they
Right. And
see
feel like
they
they
need to.
belong and they can and share
Right.
their voice. Yeah,
Right.
totally. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Well,
thank you, and thank you, Robin, for,
Yes.
talking with us and asking us these questions. And yeah, so
Mhm.
thank
I
you.
hope everybody has a different perspective of how they feel about you now that they've heard your side. As I
Mhm.
said, it's very important to hear both sides.
Yeah.
And I hope when this goes up that people think about you differently. I'm
Yeah.
biased. So I'm biased because I work with both of you. But the uh, but other than that, I felt it is very important to hear your sides.
Thank
And
you.
that's very important to me, especially
Yeah.
in my career and what how I feel about aromatherapy and herbalism.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right now I'm going to close the recording and do this correctly. I don't screw this up.